Hi, my name is Matthias Trum of the Schlenkerla Smoke Beer Brewery in Germany, and this is the Brewer to Brewer podcast from All About Beer magazine. My guest today will be or is Berith Karlsson from the Närke Kulturbryggeriet in Sweden. And she's here for a conversation that goes beyond the brew house and into topics that matter to brewing professionals and curious beer drinkers. Before we start, however, first, please visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media at allaboutbeer. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out patreon.com/allaboutbeer. We'll get into the conversation in just a moment, but first, this message.
First Tea is a proud sponsor of the Brewer to Brewer podcast. With winter chill settling in, now is the time to take advantage of the toasted rice and fresh green character of Genmaicha tea in saisons, lagers, and cream ales. Looking for other new ideas? Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA to find the right teas and botanicals for your next project. And attention brewers, registration is now open for the 2024 Best of Craft Beer Awards. Now in its 10th year, this is a BJCP sanctioned event judged by fellow brewers, professional judges, and industry leaders. Judged in Oregon, it's the third largest professional brewing competition in North America, and it's your chance to have your hard work evaluated and rewarded. In addition to traditional styles, new this year is the smoothie sour style category and the collaboration competition. Register your beers through January 31st, 2024 by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register. Don't delay, learn more, and get your beers signed up by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register.
Okay, so let's get into it. Before I start with my first question, I want to tell you listeners out there a little bit about my guest today. Berith Karlsson started the Närke Kulturbryggeriet in Sweden together with her husband Åge in 2003, making it one of 12 breweries that founded the Swedish Independent Small Scale Breweries Association. Today, the group has roughly 150 members, so it has grown quite considerably. Berith has been working full-time in the brewery for the last 10 years or so, doing everything but brewing, and today runs the business with the two brewers, Emil Arvidsson and Jörgen Hjerling. Berith, welcome to the meeting and to the conversation, and I'm really happy that you agreed to have this talk with me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthias. I'm happy that you asked me, and I'm really a great fan of Hellerbräu Schlenkerla. I have to say this because you're one of the coolest breweries in the whole world, and also the best in Bamberg.
Thank you very.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. But this is not the reason why I invited you to the conversation. I actually have quite a few questions. I mean, we met before in brewery tours, but my hope was today to get some insight, to a little bit crawl into your brain and to see how you think on the beer part. And I think this will be quite interesting for the listeners as well. I hope I got the introduction right. Did I pronounce all the names correctly? I mean, Swedish and German are relatively close, but I'm not sure.
I'm satisfied with your pronunciation, I must say.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm relieved now.
Yeah.
The name Närke Kulturbryggeriet, I'm interested where that came from. I actually looked it up on Google, and Google translates it wrongly and says Närke is something about craziness or foolishness, so which obviously is wrong. Where does the brewery name come from, and what did you think? Why did you call it that?
Well, it's rather simple because Närke is the name of our province, our landscape.
Okay.
So you can compare it to Franken, which is your part of Bavaria. And Kulturbryggeri, it means culture, brewery, and brewing is culture, and so that's it. It's not more complicated than that.
Okay. So did you want to point out somehow, like when you started as one of the first small scale breweries in Sweden, and did you want to did you want to point out somehow that beer culture was missing before, or was that part of the idea?
In a way, but it wasn't the main reason because I'd rather talk about positive things than negative things. Although Närke is a negative part of Sweden, and we also make a joke with this when our logo is nä, no.
Okay.
And sometimes we tell about what we are not brewing. We are not brewing dishwater, yeah. So it's a way of wrong marketing, but it turns out in a funny way, really. So people get interested when they see this kind of advertising stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So in a way you're saying that some of the breweries before your time were using dishwasher water, or is that
Uh,
just
I will put it like this: when you get interested in handcrafted beers,
Mhm.
even if they are low from taste, it has to be a good balance and an interesting taste. A lager beer shouldn't be like an IPA, for instance, but it's a great difference, a big difference between handcrafted lager beers and the industrial process, brewed ones. So that's what I mean with culture, beer culture. The bigger breweries, I can't really honestly say they are in it for the culture.
They're probably in it for the money, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, you said it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, what were the big or what are the big breweries of Sweden? Maybe for the listeners, not everybody maybe knows that. The big industry
The,
players.
the biggest is Carlsberg,
Okay.
and it's also one of the biggest in the world, and it tells something about aiming for the money.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, Carlsberg has this great history of in the 19th century isolating the yeast and really doing a lot for lager beer. And
Mm.
nowadays they're this industrial conglomerate. It's yeah, it's sad to see in a way.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
And they
So
also have sometimes
yeah,
their more luxury parts of their production, and they call it Jakobsen, for instance, and but it's not their main. It's not their main production. They want to produce. I'm now throwing stones in a glass house, but they want to produce cheap alcohol for the most of the people in the world. That they should have they should choose this beer every day, every time of the year, to every kind of meal and to every kind of TV program.
right, right.
Yeah,
So exchangeable, so to say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. When you started your brewery, what was your goal apart from bringing culture back to beer brewing in Sweden?
Well, I can't remember that we had a specific goal more than keep on brewing interesting beers, because we were home brewers for about, well, 8 to 10 years before we started the brewery, and we got in contact with other home brewers, and when we started, we really didn't know about. Okay, we know if you want to make a good marmalade, you do it yourself, because the ones that are in the shop, there are more sugar than fruit. So that's also the thing about the beer. If you don't be if you take your Rohstoff, what's called Rohstoff,
Raw
Matthias?
material,
Raw
raw material.
material, of
Hmm.
course. If you take the raw materials that you want for your beer, you don't look at the price at the
Hmm.
first moment
Yeah,
of your brewing. So that's the thing that we wanted to do. And we also had contact with uh, a rather big number of other home brewers, and the guys that started smaller breweries also some 5, 6, 7 years before us, and exchanged knowledge with them. And it was really a nice world because it was so friendly. So we really wanted to try to get into that because it was productive in a way. You were creating something, and that was the thing, I think.
Did you really see that this would be the full livelihood, like also from an economic point of view? I mean, you said that profit obviously was not the main interest when you founded the company, but in the end of the day, you have to live from something. So what was the plan? Did you want to do it parallel to your normal job, or did you say from the start, no, this is a business thing as well, I want to live from that?
We started step by step. So we first started, we brewed 500 liters of beer every third Saturday.
Okay.
And we got into the pubs in our local hometown, and in some very good pubs in Stockholm, because at that time there wasn't many breweries making different beer styles on keg, so that's how we got in contact with the pubs in Stockholm. Mm-hmm. And we just started a little vorsichtig.
Yeah, carefully,
step by step, and testing how would this work out, because I was a teacher and had a full-time job as a teacher, and my husband was a photographer, an artist, so we had that as our main income, really.
Okay. I mean, this is a big step, especially for you coming from that teacher positions, which is probably government employee, meaning very safe employment, and you went to become an entrepreneur. I mean, I find it always very amazing when people do something like that, because for me, the Schlenkler Brewery is a family company now. My family has never been doing anything else basically for the past 5 or 6 generations, so I never really paid much thought to what I do. But people like you who really jump into the cold water, as we say in German, and start something like that, this is truly amazing.
Yeah, but I didn't think about that in that way really, because as we started in this way, step by step, it just turned out we can get a little bigger. We can buy some more equipment, and the money that we earned, we bought new equipment, and so it really was a slow change. But when I at last gave up my teaching, I really didn't think that I was leaving teaching, but I had to choose my own project. I had to choose my own project. Otherwise, it would have been very stupid, I think. And you can't be afraid of changing your life. So I wasn't born to be afraid. I had to take the chance.
And you took it and you turned it into something really, really great. I personally, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have that talk with you. I just love the Necke beers. I still have a few bottles in my fridge. I cherish some over Christmas, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
When you founded the brewery, I mean, alcohol taxation and legislation is very strict in Sweden. Was that complex? Like, did you need to obtain property in order to be licensed, or how did that work?
What do you mean by that?
When you started the brewery, was it like, could you just go to the local town hall and say, hey, I want to open up a commercial brewery, and then you pay a fee and then you get the license, or is that a very complex start in Sweden?
It was at that time, 20 years ago, it was more complicated and more expensive, because we had to pay a lot of, I think it was about 6,000 crowns to get to apply for the license.
Okay.
And if we would have had no as an answer, that's lost money.
Lost money, yeah.
But then after a while, after some years after that, it was a big discussion also in the government, because and more smaller breweries wanted to start, and the fee was really crazy when you looked about how big or how small the breweries were, because after some years we got that fee paid back.
Okay.
Oh, strange thing.
Good success. Good
Yeah.
success.
It happened, yeah. And now that to apply for a license, you don't need to do that, but you have
Okay.
to have all the other permissions from the state and from your community for Lebensmittelgenehmigung and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
food legislation,
Yeah,
food
yeah.
registration, and so forth. Yeah, yeah.
And every
Yeah, I
year
guess
to
that's
pay for
similar
that.
in Europe, everywhere, probably. Probably in
Yeah.
the States too.
Yeah.
Was this part of the reason why you and others founded the Swedish Independent Small Scale Breweries Association to make things easier for new startups?
A small part of the reason, perhaps, but the main reason was really that we got in contact with each other and exchanged experience, and you had some good advice in buying equipment and stuff like that. So we thought about getting a little more structured in our contacts. So that's why the main reason why we started the association.
Okay. And there were 12 members at the beginning, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And those are breweries from all over Sweden, or is that just more local thing and it grew from there, or how was that?
It was in a part of middle and south Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah. But after that, we also have breweries up in the north and down to south of Sweden, and we are about 400 breweries today, and one third, a little bit more than one third are members in our association.
Okay. So do you still have an active role in there, or like member of the board, or is it?
No, but I'm an active member.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
do teachings, or what does the association do for its members, or how does it work?
It works like we have different groups that have one issue, one question. One group is responsible for the contacts with our monopoly for selling alcohol, the state monopoly, Systembolaget. And one group is responsible for talking to politicians, also in our government, and also but local ones also about the thing about our high taxes of alcohol. So, yeah.
Well, any chance that there's going to be a change eventually, or don't you see that in the future?
I will say I will make a cross in the roof when it happens.
Maybe we should explain a little bit about that. Like since we export to other countries, I know a little bit about the taxation there, but maybe for the other listeners, what are typical beer tax rates in Sweden, depending on the beer style?
If you take, for instance, a normal beer of 5%, drinking beer, the alcohol tax is about €1 per liter, I think, per bottle.
Okay.
I have to calculate. 2,28 gånger 5%. It's about €1 per liter.
Okay.
So that would be 35 cents per bottle. And in Spain, which is the other country, Spain and Sweden are the only countries in your EU which have not this different beer tax depending on how big your brewery is. So in Spain, the alcohol tax for a bottle of beer is 0.03 euro.
Okay, so 3 to 4 cents, something like that. Yeah, that's about what we pay in Germany.
Yeah. And on wine, they have no alcohol tax.
Yeah, same here in Germany, which is totally strange that Germany would have a beer tax but not a wine tax. But one would estimate otherwise, but no. Yeah,
but
you already made
nice wines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do as well, especially Franconia does, but well. I'm not a wine person. I think you guessed that much.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
you already mentioned the Systembolaget, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well. Um, you might remember that my mother came from or was born in Sweden, Ystad, which is like in the south of Sweden. And I always remember when we were up there and my parents got some alcohol that we went to the Systembolaget shop. And for me, coming from Germany, which at least alcohol-wise, it's a extremely free country. You can buy alcohol in basically any shop. It's really easy to get a license to sell alcohol. And in Sweden, you have this monopoly run by the state. It's so different and so hard to imagine. Um, how how did it come that there is such a monopoly? What's the aim of it? And maybe you can describe how it works these days when you actually go in there purchasing a beer.
well, I can't tell you exactly because I have not that full history of Systembolaget, but I think it came from also a time where workers also sometimes got paid with alcohol in the industrial production and in the harbors and stuff, and they couldn't choose money or liquor. Liquor was also a payment, but you can't feed your kids with liquor, so it was really a problem for the working people. So I think it came from this situation really in the 19th century, and then the state has a good company there because they earn a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So
And about the situation that it is a monopoly, it's good and bad because it's a good customer. They pay their bills in time and everything, but they also decide about the rules, how I can sell my beer in how many shops, and I never do big offert. What is called? They ask
offers
something
to
for a new beer.
tenders. Yeah, yeah.
I never answer these questions because I sell my beer in local shops, 10 shops, and so I decide my prices. But if they ask for a lager beer, that should not be more than €1 per bottle. If you tell that you will do this, you have to do it, and if you fail, you also have to pay money that because you failed. So it's a strange situation.
You said that you sell your beer in local shops too. I thought, do you mean pubs by that, or
No.
is local retail also possible nowadays?
No, local shops from Systembolaget.
Okay.
In our region, in Örebro, we have four Systembolag shops, and in our region we have perhaps 10 more, but I can also only have 6 more because then my number is full. I can have 10 shops.
Okay, so you can supply a shop directly without going through the centralized system.
It's monopoly shops. It's Systembolag.
I understand, but you don't run the big tenders, but you go directly to the shop and they list it without that your beer is listed all across Sweden in every shop. So that's basically it. Yeah.
My beers are only listed in those 10 shops.
Okay.
But as I do this, I'm also allowed to deliver to the central lager house of Systembolaget, and from there it can be ordered by customers all over Sweden to be delivered at their shop. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a postal service, so to say, and then they pick it up at the.
So that's one of the things that is good with Systembolaget, as they have this service for the customers, and that's good, also good for us.
Yeah, Yeah, that's that. Especially for small breweries, this is amazing. I mean, if you see at all the problems you have when you run your own online shop, and then you have to go through Amazon or someone who charges you huge fees for it, this sounds really excellent. And for the consumer also, he always knows to go to that one address, and there he gets his high quality products from at home.
Mhm.
Sounds sounds really good.
Mm.
And I think what's the limit at Systembolaget from the alcohol? Was it 3.8 or percentage?
Uh, Beer under 3.5 you can sell in the normal grocery shop.
In the normal
So
supermarket, yeah.
3.5. So, but it can be as strong as you really want to do it.
Yeah. I remember from when I was little, that my mother always said that it was very popular when young people went out that they first had hembrent at home because the fees were so the prices were so expensive. I think I have to explain that to the listeners. Hembränt is basically Swedish for home distilled. So basically,
Moonshine.
apparently, it.
Moonshine.
Pardon?
It's called moonshine, I think.
Moonshiners,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Is that still a thing for the young people today, or is it just the memory of my mother how it was?
It's not it's not more a big anymore a big thing, but it still exists because people do their own moonshine in the woods. But since we are in EU, you can also easily travel to the border shop
Yeah,
in Garden and get your own moonshine cheaper than to do it yourself. And
yeah,
but the bigger problem today for young people and for older people is other drugs and it's
okay,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. A lot of countries have those problems.
Mm.
And I mean that brings back to the first question you've answered, beer is culture. And when beer is part of your dining experience, of your lunch experience, then you are controlled in what you do with the alcohol. And I think that's more and more lost, and at least here in Germany, I don't know about Sweden, that people are not seeing as part of food, but seeing as a part of an event. And then, of course, some people overdo it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I suppose that's the same in Sweden, right?
Yeah. But in the recent recently we also have some influencers, or what can I say, talking about food, pairing food and
Hmm.
beer also, not only food and wine. So and also some good pubs and restaurants are interested in educating their staff in another way, like they did always with wine, for instance. So
Yeah,
that's a good thing.
yeah. Um, I think for the second part of the questions, I want to go a little bit more in detail about Nerke and its beers, and how you especially have been doing it. But before we go that before we go there, we're gonna make a short break for a message from the sponsors, and then I come back to the conversation with Berith from Nerke Kulturbryggeriet and some more details and the more interesting part of this conversation.
First Tea invites you to talk tea for a sec. The crisp, clean notes of a classic Pilsner provide the perfect space for Genmache's tea's toasty, rice, and fresh green tea character. Contact the team at First Tea about how to use Genmaica green tea and other botanicals by emailing info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA. And attention brewers, registration is now open for the 2024 Best of Craft Beer Awards. Now in its 10th year, this is a BJCP sanctioned event, judged by fellow brewers, professional judges, and industry leaders. Judged in Oregon, it's the third largest professional brewing competition in North America, and it's a chance to have your hard work evaluated and rewarded. In addition to traditional styles, new this year is the smoothie sour style category and the collaboration competition. Register your beers through January 31st, 2024 by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register. Don't delay, learn more, and get your beers signed up by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register.
So welcome back, everybody, to this conversation between Berith Karlsson from Närke Kulturbryggeriet and myself, Matthias Trum from the Schlenkerla Smoke Beer Brewery. We've covered a little bit on the unique Swedish alcohol system, Systembolaget, and how the Närke Brewery was founded and what the goals of Berith were. And in the second part of this conversation, I wanted to focus a little bit more on what Närke achieved in its time and maybe what they plan to achieve in the future and what's special about Närke. Berith, the first time I got in contact with Närke actually was not through you or through a beer of yours. It was when I Googled myself or Googled Schlenkerla on the beer rating platforms. And it was astonishing for me to see that German beers usually don't do too well on those rating platforms. And Schlenkerla within the smoke beer section, yes, but apart from that, German beers tend to be relatively low in the numbers. Your brewery, however, the Närke, is amazingly good in the platforms. On ratebeer.com, you have, I think, 2 or 3 beers under the top 50 beers worldwide. What do you think? How did you aim for that, or was it just coincidence? Like, how did that come, and what role does it play for your everyday work?
It's interesting that you ask this, because we didn't aim for that at all. We always aimed for making good, high quality, good beers from taste. And this started when we were home brewers, and we really started, for instance, making. You have seen the Stormaktsporter.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it was a total high score in rate beer, and when we started brewing this as home brewers, you couldn't get these beers. You could, if you went to England, you could have some Russian imperial stouts, but it didn't exist in Sweden, and I don't know how the situation was in Germany. But we started to brew some of these beers, and it was amazingly good. You can share a bottle under 3-4 persons as a dessert beer, together with a chocolate cake or something like that, and yeah, it was astonishing, interesting with these beers. And of course, we started to brew this kind of porter beers also when we started the brewery. And some guys got hold of it and tasted it in rate beer, and it was success. We didn't think about it, and we never do wettbewerbe, what's it called?
Competitions.
We never do competitions with our beers. We get sometimes a good diploma from a beer festival or something where the visitors choose the best beers in different styles, and that's a very nice thing to do, but we never do competitions. So but it was really rare beers, and when we started to do also some lagering time on oak barrels,
Yeah.
you couldn't get these beers either, so it was really fantastic, a new thing. And now it's amongst the smaller breweries, it's not exceptional at all. It's many people do this now, and they make good beers, and the American breweries do this, I know, for many years. So yeah.
I find it interesting that you say that the Stormaktsporter is a beer to be shared with friends. To be honest, whenever I get a bottle, I don't share it. I keep it for myself.
Okay. You can drink one bottle on your own. It's allowed.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is maybe even a little bit a personal question I have now for you. How do you go about creating a new beer? I mean, I know it from myself. I'm actually not a very creative person, and everything we do at Schleinkala is basically uncovering something from the past, something which has been there before, and so forth, which is challenging by itself, and I like it very much, but it's not a creative process as such. So I would be interested to hear how you go about a creative process. Like, what starts in your mind, and how does it turn into a beer in the end?
Mainly, it's like perhaps as we make a big range of beers. We make lagers, we make ales, stout. The only thing we don't do is sour beers. And suddenly, perhaps we think, oh, we don't have a good drinking Irish stout version of a beer. So then we start to think about that. And sometimes the process is short, perhaps only some weeks or something like that. But sometimes we also think about an idea over 1 year or even longer, and it matures, and then when the time is ready and we are ready in our thoughts, we put together a recipe, and then we go
Okay.
on.
How often does this not work out? That in the end you have something which you don't like yourself?
It happens, and you know, the brewing process, it's very, if you're carefully, you don't do an ugly beer, but perhaps the recipe wasn't what you thought in your mind. So sometimes we hear about a new version of a hop, and we choose one hop, and then it turns out in another way than we got from the information. So we just stop that beer. Perhaps it wasn't bad at all, but I perhaps didn't like the taste, or one of the brewers said, this wasn't what I thought it would be. So we just put down that label and create another beer. That's it.
You know what I like most about what you just said? That you
No.
don't have any sour beers. That
But
that
I
emphasizes
like sour beers. I like sour beers very much.
I just don't at all. But it again tells me that Nerke is a beer which I can always drink safely and not have to be careful about any. Now, I
Yeah.
guess that's a German thing, because sour is so much associated with off flavors here, and I know that there's a lot of good sour beers. In fact, the brewmaster who runs my laboratory, he loves sour beers, but I myself, I'm just not a sour person whatsoever.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's allowed.
Um, it's allowed, yeah. Outside the purity law, it is allowed, and that actually brings us to the next questions. To the next question. Um, Obviously, being a German brewer, I'm somewhat limited with what I can do with ingredients. Do you want to elaborate what ingredients you have been using? Maybe the most craziest ingredient you have used in a beer so far?
Yeah, but I want to at the start, I want to say you really don't need anything else that is than what is allowed in the German purity laws, because that's what you need. And you have such a big range of malts and hops, and such a big rate of yeast strains, that it's enough. You really don't need anything more. And you can get the yeast from yeast producers, or you can get the yeast from the air, Matthias, and that's will be a sour beer.
I know.
But during the 10,000 years or more that we brew beer in the world, I think there have been no limit about what you can put in your beer, from fruit or herbs and other stuff. So we once put some flavor in a beer using, don't faint now, Matthias.
I'd be careful.
Bibergeil.
Bibergeil?
Yeah.
What's that?
That's a thing from the beaver.
Okay, beaver, yeah, okay.
And it's
Beaver,
glance.
Beavergalle.
Yeah.
Beaver.
It's a
Oh my
glance
God.
in the beaver, which it makes smells in the woods to chase away other beavers.
Okay, I just look. Oh, okay, yeah. I actually heard that that was used in German beer historically at one point too to get the bitterness inside when they didn't have enough hops.
Oh dear.
They used cow bile, I think.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
So
It's an interesting taste and an interesting aroma, but once I think a woman at a beer festival, we do this at beer festivals sometime, and a
okay,
woman said that she didn't know what words most the best describe the taste and aroma. She said it can be a toothpaste or it can be a wet dog. So really, it's everything in this aroma. It's everything. It's wood
okay,
and it's water and wood. Yeah, but we use some other herbs and
okay.
plants.
Which, for instance?
We use spruce shoots.
Hmm.
We use bog myrtle. You know about bog myrtle?
No.
No. What's the German word? I
Bockmergel.
yeah. Perhaps I can think about it in some minutes. But we use, for instance, these ones, and also juniper berries and
Yeah.
or branches. So that's also an old tradition, because one of our ideas in the brewery is to combine to all both looking forward and develop new kinds of beers, but also look backwards to the historic ones.
I
So
mean,
then we came into these plants.
okay. Which is your personal favorite of the non-Reinheitsgebot beers you have?
I like the bog myrtle beer very much, and I collect it myself in the woods. You cut some new branches, small ones, from the edge of the bush, and it smells wonderful. And
Okay.
you have to walk around in the forest at forest lakes. It grows where it's very moistury, and,
Hmm.
at the end your back aches so much that you hardly can't walk, but you can hardly stop cutting this plant, so it's wonderful.
I can perfectly understand why this is your favorite because you work so hard for it and it's really an achievement then. So
Yeah,
it's
perhaps.
the mind drinks too, not just the mouth.
Yeah,
That's what
perhaps.
happens at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this beer definitely have to try. And I mean, Swedish forests are much bigger and probably less walked through than the German forests. So I can only imagine how good the quality of the raw materials and spices and herbs are you get from there. Have you tried anything with mushrooms?
No, but we also work a lot with honey.
Okay, I can
Mhm.
see that. I can
Yeah.
see that. Yeah, that's really amazing. I mean, uh, you kind of said it already, but do you see the Reinheitsgebot as an obstacle for German breweries? Like, is maybe that the reason why I'm coming back to the original question with the rate beer and um, the modern type of achievement measurement, I want to call it. Maybe that's part of the reason why German breweries seem to be not as present in the beer world anymore as they used to be because we're hindered by the Reinheitsgebot. Would you agree to that or?
No, no, I don't agree to that, because if you look into rate beer is one of the biggest rating sites in the world, but you also we have national ones, and if you look into them, and you know that the guys there, they are brewers, they're pub people, there are beer geeks, and a lot of people, and a lot of people just drinking beer. So you have a very big mixture of judges there. But to be a good beer judge, you have to judge a beer after the style. And that's why also a Dortmunder can be wonderful if you compare it to the Dortmunder, what's it called?
Yeah, Dortmunder style to the other Dortmunder beers.
Yeah. So if you look into any of these rating sites, you can see that the imperial stouts are high rated, and if you're a beer geek, really, it's very easy to love this kind of beer because it's so tasteful. And if you look at the points for Czech lager or a German lager or a Pils, they are much lower, and it's really unfair to these beer styles, I think.
Yeah.
They should also be higher rated if they are good, and very many of the beers are good, but they are lower rated because they have less taste, and it's a pity. It's a pity.
You're speaking out of my heart. You've been talking about the American craft brewers that do a lot of good things these days, and the stouts and the different flavors and so forth. I'm kind of getting the impression here in Germany, craft beer also boosted what the reach of beer and how beer was accepted by consumers, and there was a boost in sales in the last 10 years or so. Even new breweries were formed here in Germany. But it seems to be over the peak now, and people seem to be retreating to standard lagers, at least here in Germany. How is that development in Sweden? You said it's more a couple of hundred breweries now in Sweden. Do you see a similar development there?
Well, yes, but I think it's also a matter of economic situation, because nowadays, just overnight, people started to buy industrial lagers again, and very much less handcrafted beers. Because of the price, and suddenly our state monopoly was in the discussion in the media, and told, people perhaps don't like the IPAs anymore, so they turn into the more normal beer styles. I think the state monopoly should stay out of the discussion just because they are a monopoly, but it's like this also in Sweden. People buy more lager beers, but I have also my own explanation. And it's like this, we have three kinds of beer, really. If you don't speak of beer style, you have drinking beers, tasting beers, and sipping beers. And sipping beers you drink very little of, and not so very often, because it's a big concentration of taste, and you can't really drink 3 pints or dry beer.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And the tasting beers, they are more like you can sit in an evening and drinking some different kinds of strong IPAs, and very, very heavily hopped, and it's wonderful. But when you want to drink beer, drink it. It can't be too tasty. It can't be too strong.
That's an interesting distinguishing or interesting way of looking at things. I think here in Germany we still very much have that food approach to beer, that at least the standard beers are part of the everyday nourishment, and people tend to drink a lot of it, not as much as in the old days, but it's interesting to see how you can view it from the other side. So. But where do you see Swedish craft beer in 10 years? How's that going to develop?
I think we reached the number of breweries that we can have in this country, because we only have 10 millions of beer drinkers, and a lot of them are kids, so they are not allowed to drink. So the market isn't that big, and you can't really build a company only on export of things. You have to think about, I say this, think global, drink local.
Yeah, know that phrase. Yeah,
that should be the main thing in your brewery, to deliver local.
And that limits the size you can do, especially in a not so densely populated country like Sweden.
I think so. Yeah.
Do you think some Swedish breweries will have to close?
Yeah, some already did, and it wasn't only pleite, konkurs.
Okay.
It was some breweries closed down because they are afraid that they can't keep on the business. It's only going down, you know.
Okay.
And I'm satisfied with the last year, 2023, because we have the same result as the 2022, and I'm okay. I'm not afraid. I told you I'm not an afraid woman, but I have to be aware of the situation and try
Of
to
course.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you run your own pub as well, or you sell your beers just in the other locations you mentioned before?
We have a small tasting pub. It's like
Okay.
a butcher shop, but we are only allowed to sell samples like in a festival, small
Okay.
glasses. Yeah, but
Okay.
we do that every week, once a week.
Okay.
So
Okay.
in that way, we also get in contact with new customers.
Hmm.
So it's a marketing activity, really, also.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just looked at my small paper here, and I think I didn't tell you about one of our special ingredients in beer, but it's not
Okay.
out of Reinheitsgebot. It's smoked malt.
Okay.
We do
So,
some different labels on smoked malt, and also different smoked with different woods, and that's
mhm.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you brought me the bottle with the cherry wood smoke.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't get to try it yet, but I told you I still have some bottles in the fridge, and it's coming in the next days, and you get a feedback on that one, of course.
It keeps rather well, so don't be afraid.
Where do you get your smoked malts from?
We buy most of our malts from the Swedish company Viking Malt,
Okay.
but the special smoked malt they do is from a kiln in Poland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a European yeah, combined project, if you will.
Yeah, and I also sometimes buy a malt from Bamberg.
Of course, in most of the craft breweries
Yeah.
there is the big company with a W.
Yeah. The red and yellow one.
Yeah, the red and yellow one.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of our conversation, I have a somewhat personal question, and if you're not if you don't feel comfortable with answering it, please say so. When I read your bio, and I remember the first talk we had, you said you were a teacher before, and I remember when we met for the first time that you told me a little bit about schools in Sweden, and I was surprised why a brewer or the owner or runner of a brewery would know so much about schools. And once I read your bio, it became obvious because you have that teaching background. And if I think of the teachers I had here in Germany, these people didn't strike me as entrepreneurs or daring people in any way. So how does a primary school teacher end up in running a brewery? How could that happen?
Yeah. Well, as we started as hobby brewers, um, we did this in our spare time, and it changed over time and grew to a project, and the project grew. So really, that we chose to start the brewery, really, it was of an interest of taste and culture and brewing, and well, I'm not only a teacher. I am a person who taught, and now I'm a person not brewing so much anymore, but having a brewery at least. So yeah, yeah. I don't think it's very strange. I could have been a perhaps I didn't I couldn't have been a doctor, but I could have been a doctor and also changed to a brewing company, or I could have been something else.
Do you see, or do you have some how to say that, standing trait in what you do? Like, do you want to teach your beer drinkers something about beer culture? Is that also part of the story, or am I interpreting too much here?
No, we offer evenings in the brewery for groups, and then we have a beer school and beer tasting and a tour through the brewery. So we really do some missionary when people want to visit the brewery.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I,
it's so funny. It's so fun, and it makes so much joy also doing this as a guide for a group. And when the group goes away from here, they sometimes say, well, when we ordered this evening, we thought it was a little expensive, but now it feels cheap.
yeah. Yeah, because you have that message which is conveyed in between. And if you look what you pay for, when you get some presenter that talks something about technology, and you pay a 3 or 4 digit figure per day for these people, and you don't even have anything to eat or drink with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What do you pay for a big production of a film in the
Yeah.
movies?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And what you get for that.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you, and I think you're doing a great job there, and we would need more teachers in brewing to round it up that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, and we take students from the beer bryggeriteknik, brewing
Yeah,
technique
yeah. Brewing
education.
university or
Yeah,
brewing school. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And we,
I think you've done a lot for Swedish brewing and for craft brewing, and you can be really proud on what you achieved there.
thank you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, Berit, so much for answering all these questions. I hope I wasn't getting too much under your skin with
No,
with
it was
with
okay. Yeah.
thank you all to everyone who listened today, and make sure that you make it one day to Sweden, to Närke Kulturbryggeriet, and get some beer teaching from Berit directly. Berit will be back on the next episode of the show, and she's going to have a conversation with a brewer of her choosing, and that will be in the air in about 2 weeks. So make sure you tune in for that. Please
Mhm.
also visit allaboutbeer.com and follow on social media. And to support journalism in the beer space, check out patreon.com/allaboutbeer. My name is Matthias Trum of the historic Schlenkerla Smoke Beer Brewery, and thank you very much for listening to the Brewer to Brewer podcast today.
This episode was brought to you by Genmaicha. Genmaicha green tea truly dances with saisons, lagers, and kolsch. First Tea is your source for Genmaicha tea and botanicals that fit the season and unique flavor profiles you're looking for. Email info@firsttea.com. That's FIRSDTEA to discover the right teas and botanicals for your next project. And attention brewers, registration is now open for the 2024 Best of Craft Beer Awards. Now in its 10th year, this is a BJCP sanctioned event judged by fellow brewers, professional judges, and industry leaders. Judged in Oregon, it's the third largest professional brewing competition in North America, and it's a chance to have your hard work evaluated and rewarded. In addition to traditional styles, new this year is the smoothie sour style category and the collaboration competition. Register your beers through January 31st, 2024 by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register. Don't delay, learn more, and get your beers signed up by visiting bestofcraftbeerawards.com/register.